morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to have a chat about a new, what's it called? Kingambit, there we go. It's a new evolution, they're hard to remember. And this one, well, this one could be fun, because this gets an automatic one-hit KO on anything. Kind of. And then there's a new tool which is going to make absolute perfect sense when you see it. So what we've got here, I mean, if we have a quick look at the pre-evolutions, we've got a Pawniard here, single energy, flip 3 coins, 10 damage for each heads. No. Not a fan of this. Frankly, we have a Pawniard at the moment that can just do 30 damage. It is the one that came around in Astral Radiance, and sure, it only has 60 HP and it does tend to itself. So look, if you want a 70 HP one, fine. But then again, if you want a 70 HP one, the one from Crown Zenith will do a flat 20 for 1 energy, and you don't have to flip 2 coins in order to do it. Basically, not being rude, I don't like this Pawniard. I don't think it's very good. Now, in terms of Bishop, what we've got here, single energy 20, nobody cares. But 2 energy, 50 damage, and then you flip 3 coins. If you flip 1 heads, you do an extra 20 damage. If you flip 2 heads, you do an extra 60 damage. If you flip 3 heads, you do an extra 120 damage. Which sounds good, but isn't actually that good. Because look, I know it's on a single prize Pokemon and all that, but 170 is not a key number. It's not actually very good. I don't actually like it very much. I'm sorry. Plus, it's for 2 energy, not 1. For what it's worth, Bishop, don't forget we've got the one from Astral Radiance that for single energy will do 30 more damage, 30 base, for each damage counter on all of your bench Pawniard, which I think is a far better Bishop if we're going to be having to play around with this. And of course, we do have the one from Scarlet and Violet, which admittedly uses Darkness energy, but does do 120 and hits a great weakness. So basically, I don't really like this one either, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. But what about the Kingambit? Well, the Kingambit I do like, and frankly, if I didn't like the Kingambit, I wouldn't be making this video. Because what we have here is, I mean, in terms of HP, you're going up to 180, which is great for a stage 2, but it is a stage 2. The free energy 140 is, it's garbage. Like, no one's putting that on, no one's putting free energy onto a stage 2 for this. No. Garbage. However, I love the first attack. Because the first attack, ladies and gentlemen, says that if there are 4 or more damage counters on the defending Pokemon, instant one-hit KO. Although, yes, I understand instant one-hit KO is ever so slightly misleading, because, of course, is it really a one-hit KO if they've got to have 4 damage counters on there already? I'm not thinking about doing this with an attack, honestly. So I think we're going to be okay. But the point is, single energy, instant KO. And yes, I am fully aware that we do need to get up to a stage 2 here, and getting up to a stage 2 is awkward. I get that. I understand it. Fine. But I'm telling you, instant KO on like anything. And look, we've seen this before, but when we saw it before, it was kind of awkward. Like we had the Yveltal. Oh, was it GX? Because it was a GX attack, wasn't it? And this one was exactly 4 damage counters, and then you get a KO. But there had to be exactly 4 damage counters on. If you put 5 on, you wouldn't get a KO. This is 4 or more, which is clearly better. This is clearly better than that, because it means you can go a little bit over. You know, it means against a giant stage 2 EX, you can just do any amount of damage, which is at least 40, and then come in with this and get a KO. And that's obviously brilliant. But I think it's fair to say that when it comes down to this, we don't want to be doing this with an attack. Because then you're going for like a full 2-hit KO. That's a little bit awkward. No. I mean, this would be, admittedly, a slightly over the top, but a really fun use for Galarian Zigzagoon and Scoop up there. because you could use Galarian Zigzagoon, Scoop Up Net, 4 in combination thereof, as long as at least one of them was a Zigzagoon, drop 4 damage counters on, and then get a KO. It would be a little bit awkward, but if you were playing in the Sword and Shield era, you saw this happen, where we saw 4 or more Galarian Zigzagoon in a turn. Like, I'm not saying it was every turn, but I'm saying it happened, and it happened a lot more often than people who didn't play might realise. So that would be an option, but that's not an option anymore, of course, because that rotated out, as did Scoop Up Net, which is annoying. But we do have options. Don't forget we've got Inteleon VMAX. The ability Double Gunner lets you discard a water energy from your hand to put 2 damage counters on each of 2 bench Pokemon. Yes, I understand that's water energy, and here we're using metal energy. I get it. But I also understand that if you get 2 of these out, and bearing in mind getting 2 of these out is not ridiculous in a world where Radiant Eternatus exists, which will literally just get 2 of them out, and then all of a sudden, 2 different bench Pokemon are in range of being KO'd by this. But we are getting a little bit awkward here. Like, that's not escaped me. I understand we've gotten a little bit awkward here. Because the problem is, we need a bench space for Eternatus, and sure, there are ways to move it off the bench, but you've still got to get it there in the first place. Then we need 2 bench spaces for your Inteleon. And that only leaves 3 bench spaces, including the active as a space. That only leaves 3 spaces for all of your stage 2 line, and that does get a little bit awkward, I grant you. I'm just saying it's an option. Don't forget the Radiant Alakazam can move 2 damage counters from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another, so you could actually here go for a single Inteleon with an Alakazam, and then essentially put 2 damage counters on one, 2 damage counters on another, and then use Radiant Alakazam to move them over. That would absolutely be an option here. Or while we're playing around with Radiant Pokemon, how about Radiant Blastoise? Okay, fine, not a Radiant Pokemon that sees a huge amount of play, but Radiant Blastoise does remain here as an option. Discard a water energy from your hand to put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Though admittedly that does only get 2 damage counters onto the board, and when we're looking at Inteleon, we're getting 4 onto the board at least. So you do need to bear that in mind. Point is, if you wanted to make a deck that played around with using abilities to drop damage counters and then KOing with Kingambit, the fact that it's a stage 2 would be awkward. But getting the damage on really isn't that awkward. And let's face it, we are moving into a format here where we have very, very, very big Pokemon that generally don't get one-hit KO'd. And there are exceptions, obviously. But I'm saying that generally speaking, we don't see a huge amount of KOs, alright? So why not have something like this in your back pocket as a fun idea to go, I'm KOing all of those big Pokemon and you can't stop me. For what it's worth, yes, I do understand that Meowscarada can also drop 3 damage counters, but it drops 3, you need 4, and it's a stage 2. There's a reason it wasn't one of the ones I pointed out initially a moment ago. I just think it's too awkward getting another stage 2 out. You still need grass energy in the same way the others need water energy, but now you're trying to muck around having a stage 2 as well. It's too awkward. And while we're pointing out more awkward examples, how about Hisuian Samurott V-Star? Now, to be clear, I don't think Hisuian Samurott V-Star is necessarily the best option here, but do remember it does have a V-Star power that allows you to just drop 4 damage counters. And that's it, that's what it does. Now, you have to evolve up into your V-Star, and it's just kind of a one-shot deal because it's a V-Star power, etc. But it is an option. I mean, what you could do is use this with Ting Lu. Now, again, the energy here does get a little bit awkward. Although, remember, Luminous energy is still a thing. So you could basically just make a fighting deck and then just play some Luminous energy for Kingambit. That would work. But you could basically just play Ting Lu. Ting Lu blocks abilities while dropping damage counters around, and then, maybe that slows the game down enough that Kingambit comes in and then smashes and takes the last couple of big KOs. I am well aware that the options I'm throwing out here are a little bit awkward. I don't think there is a super obvious, this is how you play Kingambit and win big regional championships. I don't know if we have the Pokemon around at the moment. What I do know is we have options, and some of these could well end up working pretty well, and there could well be things coming around in the future that would be lovely. Like, for instance, this new tool. Now, I should point out I did all the translations myself, including the name of this card, because if you read just how it's written with the hiragana here, it literally just says Revenge Punch. So surely it's called Revenge Punch. It is a tool, and if the Pokemon it is attached to is KO'd by damage from your opponent's active Pokemon, from an attack, you put 4 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. It has to be KO'd, so it's not Rocky Helmet. Rocky Helmet, of course, remember, will put the damage on whether you're KO'd or not. This is a better Rocky Helmet, but you have to be KO'd. If you're not KO'd, it doesn't actually work. I'm sorry. But you know what? This puts 4 damage counters on, and you kind of need 4 damage counters on. Do you see where we're going with this, ladies and gentlemen? And this isn't... If you're going full Kingambit, I'm not sure this is going to work. But if you are teching Kingambit into another deck, putting this on the active Pokemon, they get KO'd, 4 damage counters, in comes Kingambit for the KO... That I can absolutely get behind. I'm giving all this stuff between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. I mean, look. It's awkward. It is absolutely awkward. But you're telling me that a single prize Pokemon that can get a one-hit KO on anything, no matter how big and awkward, isn't worth having to play around with? Oh no, ladies and gentlemen. This one seems like an awful lot of fun. At least that's what I think. I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, all kinds of fun things. And get shoutouts on the channel like the lovely Andrew Kincaid, who is a very lovely person, both a supporter and someone who's helped me out with other stuff in the past. Just a thoroughly lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and for being awesome. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.